Okay, ready to go. Okay, Kritika, you can start.
Okay. Hi everyone, a very happy Sunday morning. Myself, Kritika Goyal, and I welcome you all on the behalf of Young Indian Theosophists Group. Today's session is the first session of the following series, that is the introduction of the book Ancient Wisdom by Annie Besant. So, without wasting any time, let us sit in meditation. Oh, hidden life, vibrant in every atom. Oh, hidden light, shining in every creature. Oh, hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with me know he is therefore one with every other. Come back, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Our speaker for the day is Brother Pradeep, who will take up the introduction of the book Ancient Wisdom by Annie Besant. Brother Pradeep is a master's in biotechnology, working as a business manager for an organic products company and also a professional consultant for hydroponics. He is a third generation theosophist. He was introduced to theosophy naturally since childhood. He became an active member since 2002, and he has been since giving lectures at various theosophical lodges in Karnataka. So, I welcome Brother Pradeep. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kritika, for your introduction. Very good morning to everyone. So, if my voice is breaking or something, please let me know. Anyone can raise your hand so that I'll switch off the video. Okay, today we are taking up a new book, The Ancient Wisdom by Dr. Annie Besant. This is a very basic book which we all have to read in order to understand theosophy or to be introduced to theosophy. I think this is a wonderful book in my personal opinion. So today I'm doing the introduction part, and later on other brothers and sisters will follow up with various chapters in this book. In the introduction itself, Dr. Besant has clearly mentioned why this book is very necessary. She says, Theosophy, for some of its teachings, are so simple and so practical that any person of average intelligence can understand and follow them. So sometimes in theosophy, we feel the teachings or the principles, they're so simple. Any average person with an average level of intelligence can understand and follow them very easily in their day-to-day life. While others are so lofty, so profound, that the ablest strains his intellect to contain them and sinks exhausted in the effort. At the same time, there are certain aspects, there are certain principles in theosophy that even an able intellect person finds hard to understand, and even he sinks while understanding and feels exhausted in his effort of understanding. So as there are simple facts and simple principles that even a child can understand and follow in his daily life, but there are deep and very profound facts and things that even an intellectual person can find it difficult to understand. So therefore she says that in the present volume, that is in this book, The Ancient Wisdom, an attempt will be made to place theosophy before the reader simply and clearly. So here she's trying to say that in this book, all aspects of theosophy, or an attempt is made to place these aspects of theosophy very simply and clearly in a way which shall convey its general principles and truths as forming a coherent conception of the universe, and shall give such detail as is necessary for the understanding of the relations to each other. So that's the reason why Dr. Annie Besant has written this book. She's giving this book so that it can place all the facts of theosophy, all the principles of theosophy very clearly and simply in a simple way before the reader. And it also tries to convey that all the coherent conception of the universe, that all the truths or the facts or the principles underlying in various philosophies in the universe, she's trying to bring an unity among them, show the unity among them, and to convey that all these principles comes from a simple fact, that is theosophy. In the beginning, she also says that divine wisdom, whether called by its ancient Sanskrit name of Brahma Vidya or its modern Greek name of theosophy, comes to the world as at once an adequate philosophy and an all-embracing religion and ethic. So, divine wisdom is nothing but what we call in Sanskrit Brahma Vidya, the study of Brahma or the study of God. And it can also be called by its modern Greek name, theosophy. So, theosophy is an adequate philosophy and an all embracing religion. So, it is not separate from any religion or the fact that is, or the principles that are being followed in the world, but it is a common factor that underlines all the religions. So, that is what is this divine wisdom or Brahma Vidya and theosophy. It is admitted on all hands that a survey of the great religions of the world shows that they hold in common many religious, ethical, and philosophical ideas. So, Dr. Annie Besant says that even in a survey, when you make a survey of all the great religions of this world, so every religion or all the religions have some or the other common religious, ethical, and philosophical ideas. So, excuse me. Yeah. So there are some religious, ethical, and philosophical ideas that are underlying every religion and which are in common. So if you make a survey of great religions, you will find these common factors in every religion. The second explanation of the common property in the religions of the world asserts the existence of an original teaching in the custody of a brotherhood of great spiritual teachers, who, themselves the outcome of past cycles of evolution, acted as the instructors and guides of the child humanity of our planet, imparting to its races and nations, in turn, the fundamental truths of religion in the form most adapted to the idiosyncrasies of the recipients. So, you will also understand once you study all the religion, you will also understand a common explanation in every religion that there is an existence, the existence of an original teachings in the custody of a brotherhood. So, there is you will arrive at an understanding once you understand all the religions of this world, that there is a common teaching, and that common teaching is in the custody of one particular brotherhood or some body, and as time evolves and as time and again somebody from this brotherhood or from this body come to the world with his teachings, and those teachings, they're adapted according to the idiosyncrasies of the recipients. So whenever someone from this brotherhood come up with these basic teachings to the world, there is some adaptation, some kind of changes, some kind of adaptations according to the mentality of that recipients of that part of the world. So this is what we will understand once we study all the religions. And the sacred books of the East are the best evidence for the greatness of their authors, for who in later days or in modern times can even approach the spiritual sublimity of their religious thought, the intellectual splendor of their philosophy, the breadth and purity of their ethic. And when we find that these books contain teachings about God, man, and the universe identical in substance and a much variety of outer appearance, it does not seem unreasonable to refer them to the central primary body of doctrine. To that body, we give the name of divine wisdom in its Greek form, theosophy. So, Dr. Bessent refers here to the sacred books of the East. So there are many sacred books of the East, whether it's Taoism, Buddhism, or the Indian mythology or Indian philosophy. So the sacred books of East, they have an evidence because they show that in spite of varieties of appearance of various religions in the world, they show a common teaching of the God. They also show the common the common history of this world, and they even teach the common history of the man himself. So there is an explanation of God as a common factor of the world, and there is an explanation of the history of earth and history of man in these ancient texts of the East. So therefore she refers to them as the original doctrine or the original books of the divine wisdom, or what we can call as theosophy. As the origin and basis of all religions, it cannot be the antagonist of any. So, theosophy is the origin and basis of all religion. As explained before, so once you study all the religions, you will understand that there is some common teachings, and these teachings are in the custody of one brotherhood who time and again come to the world to with their teachings adapted according to that race or the place in the world. So that common or the original basis of all religion is what called as Brahma Vidya or divine wisdom, or we can call it as theosophy. So, therefore, theosophy is an origin and basis of all religion, and it cannot be the antagonist of any. So, it is not against any religion. It is indeed their purifier, revealing the valuable inner meaning of much that has become mischievous in its external presentation by the perverse by the perverses of ignorance and the assertions of superstition. So, therefore, theosophy is not against any religion. It is the basis and it is the origin or the original teachings of every religion. And it is, in fact, a purifier of all the religion, and it reveals the real inner meaning of any teachings. And it also shows the mischievous and external presentation which are due to ignorance and assertions of superstition. So, due to ignorance and superstition, all those cultures or customs, whatever has come up, that has to be separated from the real inner meaning of every teaching or religion, and that is the work of theosophy. But it recognizes and defends itself in each and seeks in each to unveil its hidden wisdom. So, theosophy, it seeks to unveil the real wisdom in every religion. No man in becoming a theosophist need cease to be a Christian, a Buddhist, a Hindu. So no man, once you just because you become a theosophist, you follow theosophy, you don't have to give up your religion. You don't have to cease to be a Christian, a Buddhist, a Hindu, or a Muslim. So he will but acquire a deeper insight into his own faith. So once you understand theosophy, you don't have to give up your religion. It is not something against your religion, or it is not a separate religion, but in fact you will get a deeper insight into your own religion that you're following, a firmer hold on its spiritual truths. So you will even more hold on to the spiritual truths that are being taught in your religion, a broader understanding of its sacred teaching, and your understanding of your own sacred teachings will be broader. As theosophy of old gave birth to religion, so in modern times does it justify and defend them. So theosophy in the original form, as we discussed in the beginning, theosophy as the original teachings or the basis of our religion, that concept gave rise to all other religions being followed, and the modern religions being followed in the world. And just because it is a basis, and there are some changes or due to superstition and all those things, there are some mischievous additions into the customs of this religion, that doesn't mean theosophy is against these. It will defend, it will justify why these adaptations or changes has come, and then it will show the light of the real and true religion. The main spiritual varieties of religion may be summarized thus. So the main spiritual varieties of religion can be summarized as follows. One eternal, infinite, incognizable, real existence. So every religion believes that there is one eternal, which has no end, and an infinite, an incognizable, and a real existence. So there is something that is existing, which is eternal and infinite. From that, the manifested God unfolding from unity to duality, from duality to trinity. So every religion has this basic concept that infinite, eternal, real existence, from that manifested God, an unfolding of unity to duality, unfolding of unity of that one single thing to a duality of two different things has happened, and from duality to trinity, from two different things to a trinity, three different things or three functional things has arisen. We will understand what is this trinity in further while we study about all the religions. From the manifested trinity, many spiritual intelligences guiding the cosmic order has arisen. So once from that one spiritual or eternal flame or eternal manifested God, a trinity is formed, and that trinity leads to various spiritual intelligences, and that guides the cosmic order. That acts as a guiding light for the entire order that is following this trinity. Man, a reflection of the manifested God, and therefore a trinity fundamentally, his inner and real self being eternal, one with the self of the universe. So man, so every religion believes that man is also a manifested God, and and is therefore a fundamental trinity. Man is a fundamental trinity. So whatever the universal trinity is there, so the man is a representative or a fundamental unit of that universal trinity, with his inner and real self being eternal. So every religion believes that man's inner and real self, or what we call it as soul, is eternal, which has no end, and one with the self of the universe, and it is a part of the self of the universe, or the self of that eternal uh, uh, infinite real existence, what we call as manifested God. His evolution by repeated incarnations, into which he is drawn by desire and from which he is set free by knowledge and sacrifice, becoming divine in potency as he had ever been divine in latency. So every religion also believed that man's repeated incarnations, into which he is drawn by his desires and from which he is set free by knowledge and sacrifice. So every religion basically believes that the man undergoes various incarnations, undergoes evolution, by which, due to his desire, he is drawn into this cycle of evolution or incarnations, and by knowledge and sacrifice, he can come out of this this cycle of rebirth. So this is the basic teachings of all the religions that are found. And now Madam Besant will give an example of each religion and tells us how in each religion these basic principles are found. And she has also given a huge in detailed proof of where did she find that these teachings in every religion. So we don't have to go into the proof because those are in detailed books that we have to study. But in each religion, as we discuss these 5 basic principles that are present in each religion, let us see in each religion how these basic principles are being taught or are being mentioned at least. So first she talks about in China, which is now fossilized civilization, was peopled in old days by the Turanians, the 4th subdivision of the great 4th race, the race which inhabited the lost continent of Atlantis and spread its offshoots over the world. So the Mongolians, the last subdivision of that same race, so Mongolians are the last subdivision of the 4th race, later reinforced its population on China. So that in China, we have traditions from ancient days preceding the settlement of the 5th or the Aryan race. So in China, we can find these teachings or the traditions that are followed by the end of the 4th race and which is preceding to the 5th race. So in the Qing Chang Qing or Classic of Purity. So in the book of Classic of Purity, we have these fragment of ancient scriptures that can be found. So what are the basic things that we find in these scriptures that are in common with the other religions? So in this Classic of Purity, we can find that there was something undefined and complete coming into existence before heaven and earth. How still it was and formless, standing alone and undergoing no change, reaching everywhere and in no danger. So this is the teaching about that eternal existence or the manifested God that we find in these Chinese texts. I do not know its name, and I give it the designation of the Tao. Making an effort to give it a name, I call it the Great. Great, it passes on. Passing on, it becomes remote. Having become remote, it returns. So in these teachings of we can see that eternal existence or the manifested God being designated as Tao, and that is also being described as something that reincarnates, that evolves. For very interesting, it is to see here the idea of forthgoing and the returning of the one life, so familiar to us in Hindu literature, familiar also so in this Chinese text. So therefore, in these teachings, also we can find that there is a belief of an eternal existence of the manifested God, and there is also a belief that it reincarnates, it evolves at time to time. All things under heaven sprang from it as existent. That existence sprang from it as non-existent. That a universe might become the unmanifest must give forth the one form, whom duality and trinity proceed. The Tao produced one, one produced two, two produced three, three produced all things. All things leave behind them the obscurity and go forward to embrace the brightness, while they are harmonized by the breath of vacancy. So, in this Chinese text of the Classic of Purity, we can find that the concept of one giving birth to the two, that is the duality, the two giving birth to the three, that is the trinity, and from that, all things being produced. And therefore, from that, all the entire order of order being produced or being developed. And then everything has to embrace the brightness while they are harmonized by the breath of vacancy. So the breath of vacancy here can be considered as the space, and that is how that the space harmonizes everything and takes everything into the embrace into the brightness. So here we find that the similar teachings of the world are also found in the classic of purity, that is in the Chinese text, followed in the traditions of the end of the fourth race in China. Man is regarded as Trinity. Taoism says, recognizing in him the spirit, the mind, and the body. So Taoism also recognizes man as a fundamental unit of the Trinity, where his mind, his spirit, his mind, and the body are the three representative forms of this Trinity. This division comes out clearly in the classic of purity, in the teaching that man must get rid of desire to reach union with the one. So if man has to reach, or man has to attain the unity with the one, he has to get rid of the desire, and that is the basic teaching in Taoism. Now the spirit of man loves purity, but his mind disturbs it. The mind of man loves stillness, but his desire draws it away. If he could always send his desires away, his mind would of itself become still. Let his mind be made clean, and his spirit of itself becomes pure. The reason why men are not able to attain to this is because of their minds and have not been cleansed, and their desires have not been sent away. If one is able to send the desires away, when he then looks in at his mind, it is no longer his. When he looks out at his body, it is no longer his. And when he looks farther off at external things, they are things which he has nothing to do with. So in this teaching of the classic of purity, it is clearly mentioned that man, the spirit of the man loves purity. The man is the man has the spirit, mind, and the body, the fundamental trinity inside the man. So the spirit of man loves purity, but the mind disturbs it. The mind of man loves stillness, but the mind loves stillness, but the desires draws it away. So when the man give up his desires and he purifies his mind and makes his mind to become still, then the spirit can attain the purity. So that is the basic teachings in this Taoism. On putting away of desire is laid much stress in Taoism. A commentator on the classic of purity remarks that understanding the Tao depends on absolute purity, and the acquiring this absolute purity depends entirely on putting away of desire, which is the urgent practical lesson of treatise. So therefore, giving away this So giving away the desire is the basic teaching in this Taoism. So one of the commentator of classic of purity remarks that understanding Tao depends on absolute purity. So it depends on giving up of the desire, and that is what has been stressed in Taoism. This is about the Taoism or the teachings in China. And next, Dr. Besant explains about the fifth, the Aryan race. We have same teachings embodied in the oldest and greatest Aryan religion, the Brahmanical. The eternal existence is proclaimed in the Chandogyopanishad, and as one only, without a second, it is written. The supreme logos, Brahman, is threefold, being, conscious, bliss, and it is said, from this arise life, mind, and all the senses, ether, air, fire, water, earth, the support of all, which is written in Mandukopanishad. So now Dr. Besant talks about the fifth Aryan race, which is also Brahmanical. She uses this word, a Brahmanical race, or the Aryan race. Or we can even, nowadays we use the word, the Vedic religion. So in this Aryan race, in the fifth Aryan race, there are various explanations in various Upanishads. She mentions the names of these Upanishads, which talks about this supreme logos, Brahman, and which is in threefold, being, conscious, and bliss. The trinity that is followed in the Upanishads or mentioned in the Upanishads. And from this trinity arise all life, mind, and all things that are being present here. That man in his inner self is one with the self of the universe. I am that is an idea that so thoroughly pervades all Hindu thought that man is often referred to as the divine town of Brahman, the town of nine gates, God dwelling in the cavity of his heart. So, in the Hindu text, in the Aryan race, in the fifth race, in these teachings, it is considered that man in his inner self is one with the self of the universe. So, man, there is a unity between the self of a man with self of man, or the individual self with that of the universal self. And that concept thoroughly pervades in all the Hindu thought, and that man is often referred to as the divine town of Brahman, or where the God exists. So, man is considered as a place where the God dwells. When God is regarded as the evolver of the universe, the threefold character comes out very clearly as Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. So, in Hindu text, the triology is given three different names. So, we call it as Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, or we call them as Trimurtis. So, Trimurti, what we call in Sanskrit or Hindi, is nothing but the triology that is being explained in every religion. Or again, as Vishnu sleeping under the waters, the lotus spring from him, and in the lotus Brahma is born. Man is likewise threefold. And in the Mandukya, the self is described as conditioned by the physical body, the subtle body, and the mental body, and then rising out of all into the one without duality. From the Trimurti or Trinity come many gods connected with the administration of the universe, as to whom it is said in the Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. So, therefore, in these both Upanishads, it's very clearly explained that the triology or the Trimurtis, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, so these manifest and they form the basis of all other gods, many gods connected with the administration of the universe. So they are the supreme leaders, or the supreme leaders of all the group of gods who are involved in the administration of the universe. And the man himself is the representative of this Trimurti or the triology, with his physical body, his subtle body, and the mental body. So the explanation of the physical, the astral, and the mental body can also be found in the Hindu text. It is hardly necessary to even mention the presence in Brahmanism of the teachings of reincarnation. So, since its whole philosophy of life turns on this pilgrimage of the soul through many births and deaths, and not a book could be taken up in which this truth is not taken for granted. So, therefore, in Hindu mythology, the reincarnation is well understood and well explained and strongly believed. So, there is no book where there is the reincarnation is not being accepted in Hindu mythology or Hindu philosophy. By desires, man is bound to this wheel of change. So again, in Hindu philosophy also, we find that by desire, man is bound to this wheel of change, to the cycle of rebirth. And therefore, by knowledge, devotion, and the destruction of desires, man must set himself free. When the soul knows God, it is liberated. The intellect purified by knowledge beholds him. Knowledge joined to devotion finds the abode of Brahma. Whoever knows Brahman becomes Brahman. When desires cease, the mortal becomes immortal and obtains Brahma. So, the main goal of the spirit is to reach Brahman, and therefore, for that, it has to be liberated by the desires. And knowledge and devotion are the two things that helps to liberate the spirit or the soul from these desires and become one with Brahma, which is the ultimate goal. And next, Dr. Besant talks about Buddhism. So let us see what are some of the teachings that are in common with other religions in the Buddhist teachings. In Buddhism, the logic trinity as of the one existence from which they come forth. The Logos in his triple manifestation is the first Logos, Amitabha, the boundless light. The second, Avalokiteshvara or Padmapani. The third, Manjushri, the representative of creative wisdom corresponding to Brahman. So in Buddhist philosophy also, this concept of triology or the Trimurti concept is being well established or well explained, but with different names. So what are the names? For the first logos of they call it as Amitabha, the boundless light. For the second, it is called Avalokiteshvara or Padmapani. And the third, it's called Manjushri, the representative of creative wisdom. And reincarnation and karma are so much the fundamentals of Buddhism that it is hardly worthwhile to insist on them, save to note the way of liberation and to remark that as the Lord Buddha was a Hindu preaching to Hindus, Brahmanical doctrines are taken for granted constantly in his teachings as matters of course. He was a purifier and a reformer, not an iconoclast, and struck at the assertions due to ignorance, not at fundamental truths belonging to the ancient wisdom. So, therefore, reincarnation and karma are also well explained in Buddhism because Buddha himself was a Hindu, was born as a Hindu, and was preaching these teachings to Hindus himself. So, therefore, the doctrines or the principles that are found in the Hindu text can also be found similarities in Buddhism, and basically it's not taken from any other religion. That is the fundamental truths that belongs to the ancient wisdom. So whatever Buddha has taught or whatever the ancient scripts in the Hindu philosophy existed, it cannot be said that Buddhism borrowed these principles into their religion. It is not as such, because all these facts are the fundamental truths that belong to the ancient wisdom, and any religion that speaks about ancient wisdom has to speak about these facts. Desire binds man and must be got rid of. So again, in Buddhism, we find a great deal of explanation about how desires they bind man from this rebirth. And next, let us see about the exoteric Hebrew scriptures. The idea of a trinity does not come out strongly, though duality is apparent, and the God spoken of is obviously the Logos and not the one unmanifested. So, therefore, in Hebrew scriptures, in the Hebrew culture, uh, one different what we found is that the Trinity, the idea of Trinity does not comes out very strongly, but there is an idea of duality. So one eternal existence give rise to duality, and the duality give rise to Trinity, and the Trinity give rise to all the entire order of one particular philosophy. But in Hebrew scriptures, the Trinity, the idea of Trinity does not come out very strongly, but the idea of duality is very much apparent. Philo, however, has the doctrine of the Logos very clearly, and it is found in the fourth gospel. So in the Hebrew scriptures, it is found that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So therefore, the idea of Logos or the manifestation of the God is very clearly mentioned in these scripts, that in the beginning was the Word, so that's the Logos, and the Word was with God, and the Word was with God. So there is a duality, and the Word was God, and then there is again an unity. So that's explanation can be found in the Hebrew text. Three lights are in the holy upper, which unite as one, and they are the basis of the Torah. And this opens the door to all. Come see the mysteries of the word. These are 3 degrees, and each exists by itself, and yet all are one and are knotted in one, nor are they separated one from another. Three come out from one. One exists in three. It is the force between two. Two nourish one. One nourishes many side. Thus, all in one. So, further explanation of a different person or mayors according to Mayer's points. So, now in Hebrew scriptures also there can be found a proof for the Trinity or the triology. Needless to say that the Hebrews held the doctrine of many gods. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? And of multitudes of subordinate ministrants, the sons of gods, the angels of the Lord, the 10 angelic hosts. So even in Hebrew culture, there were this doctrine of many gods, not only this triology or the Trinity, but the various other forms of gods. Basically, like as in Hindu texts, we believe for the administration of the universe, the various forms of gods. So even in Hebrew culture, we can find this. Nothing can exist in which the deity is not immanent. And with regard to reincarnation, it is taught that the soul is present in the divine idea or coming to earth. If the soul remained quite pure during its trial, it escaped rebirth. But this seems to have been only a theoretical possibility. As it is said, all souls are subject to revolution. So even in the Hebrew text, we found that we find the proof for reincarnation. It is said that all souls are subject to revolution. So every soul is subject to revolution for change, and therefore it has to undergo this reincarnation and rebirth. But men do not know the ways of the Holy One. Blessed be it. They are ignorant of the way they have been judged in all time, and before they come into this world, and when they have quitted it. So, therefore, it is been mentioned in the Hebrew text that men forget that they forget from where they come from. So, they forget that they have come from this pure form, and they have to go towards this pure form. That is the main aim. So they mention very clearly that the rebirth, the cycle of rebirth has to occur for the purity of the soul. And then we will let us talk about the Egypt, take a glance at the Egypt, and we find there from earliest antiquity its famous trinity, Ra, Osiris, Isis, as the dual second logos, and Horus. The great hymn to Amun-Ra will be remembered. So even in the ancient Egypt, the religions followed in the ancient Egypt, this concept of Trinity was very much present and has been very well established. In the fragments of the Book of the Dead, we can study the conceptions of reincarnation. So even in the Book of the Dead, which belongs to the ancient civilization, we can find these concepts of reincarnation very much. Reincarnation of the human soul, of its pilgrimage towards and its ultimate union with the Logos. The famous papyrus of the scribe Annie, triumphant in peace, is full of touches that remind the reader of the scriptures of other faiths. His journey through the underworld, his expectation of re-entering his body, the form taken by reincarnation among the Egyptians, his identification with the Logos. So therefore, in this describe Annie in the famous papyrus. So in his history or in his story, we find this proof for reincarnation even in the ancient Egyptians. And then let us see about Zoroastrianism. In Zoroastrianism, we find the conception of one existence imaged as boundless space, whence arise the Logos, the creator, Ahurmas. Supreme in omniscience and goodness, and unrivaled in splendor, the region of light is the place of Ahurmas. So, in Zoroastrianism, also we find the proof that there is one existence and which is called as Ahurmas, and it is omniscience, and it is a supreme in omniscience and goodness, and unrivaled in splendor. So there is an explanation very clearly of that one eternal supreme logos being present. As with the Hebrews, there was a tendency in the exoteric faith to lose sight of this fundamental truth. Fortunately, we can trace the primitive teachings, though it disappeared in later times from the popular belief. Dr. Hong, in his essays on the Parsis, states that Ahurmas or Hormuz is the supreme being, and that from him were produced everything. So as time passed, or as in these Zoroastrianism also, they have let go of some principles or some fundamental facts that were in their original text. But however, some researcher who found that it has been clearly stated that Hermes is the supreme being and from whom all has been produced. So that philosophy is still present in the ancient text of these Zoroastrianisms. These were called twins and are everywhere present in Hermes as well as in man. One produces reality, the other non-reality. And it is these who in later Zoroastrianism became the opposing spirits of good and evil. In the earlier teachings, they evidently formed the second logos, duality being his characteristic mark. So as in the Zoroastrianism also, there is a very clear evidence of one supreme being becoming a duality, so giving rise to a duality. And that duality that duality can be considered as one is reality and one is the non-reality, or one is a spirit of good or the spirit of evil. So this concept of duality is also being explained very clearly in Zoroastrianism. The good and bad are merely light and darkness, spirit and matter, the fundamental twins of the universe. The two form the one. So again, going ahead, the duality of one eternal manifest is being explained as good and bad, or light and darkness, spirit and matter, and they're all considered as fundamental twins of the universe, and they too becomes one. Reincarnation does not seem to be taught in the books which so far have been translated, and the belief is not current among modern Parsis. So in Zoroastrianism, the reincarnation is not being much emphasized or is not being found in the text being translated in these modern times. But we do find the idea of the spirit in man as a spark that is to become a flame and to be reunited to the supreme fire. But even though the concept of reincarnation is not being well established or explained in Zoroastrianism, but there is an idea that the spirit of man is a flame that comes from the supreme fire and has to be united with the supreme fire again. So therefore, again, this is the basis of the reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation. And this must imply a development for which a rebirth is a necessity. So therefore, this explanation itself should form the basis that rebirth is obvious and necessary. Nor will Zoroastrianism ever be understood until we recover the Chaldean oracles and allied writings, for there is its real root. Traveling westwards to Greece. So now, after Zoroastrianism, now Dr. Besant is talking about the Greek cultures, or the we meet with the Orphic system. So it is the Orphic system of the Greece is what being explained now. Described with such abundant learning by Mr. G.R.S. Med in his work Orpheus. So in his work, Mr. G.R.S. Med, who has written the book Orpheus, the Orphic system of the Greece is being well explained. The ineffable thrice unknown darkness was the name given to the one existence. So in this Orphic system, the eternal existence or is being given the name as ineffable thrice unknown darkness. So that is a name given to that form. From an immense principle to which, through the imbecility and poverty of human conception, we give a name, though it is perfectly ineffable, and in the reverential language of the Egyptians is a thrice unknown darkness, in contemplation of which all knowledge is refunded into ignorance. So it is this is quoted from the book Orpheus. From this, the primordial triad, universal good, universal soul, universal mind, and the logic trinity arises. So even in the Greek or the Orphic system, this concept of Trinity is being explained in the names of universal good, universal soul, and the universal mind. The man was also regarded as having three vehicles: the physical and subtle bodies, and the luciform body or gods. So therefore, in this Orphic system, man is also regarded as having as a representative of this the Trinity and having three vehicles. So man has these three vehicles: the physical body and the subtle body and the luciform body. So it is considered in this Orphic system, physical, subtle body and the luciform body as the three fundamental units or the vehicles of the spirit. As to reincarnation, together with all the adherents of the mysteries in every land, the Orphics believed in reincarnation. So even the Orphics, in the Orphic system, the reincarnation was being believed. To this, Mr. Med brings abundant testimony, and he shows that it was taught by Plato, Emphidoceles, Pythagoras, and others. Only by virtue could men escape from the life wheel. So Mr. Med, who wrote this book, Orpheus, he brings testimony from all the explanations of Plato and Pythagoras to explain that even in the Orphic system, the reincarnation was being followed or being believed. The Pythagorean, Platonic, and Neoplatonic schools have so many points of contact with Hindu and Buddhist thought that their issue from one fountain is obvious. The most striking is the resemblance, or more correctly, the identity of the doctrine of the one and only in the Upanishads and the Eleatic schools. So, therefore, in the Pythagorean schools, also we can find the similarities that are found in the Upanishads. Coming to the Christian religion, contemporaneous with the Gnostic and Neoplatonic system, we shall find no difficulty in tracing most of the same fundamental teachings with which we have now become so familiar. The threefold logos appear as the Trinity. The first logos, the fount of all life, being the Father; the dual-natured second logos, the Son, God-man; the third, the creative mind, the Holy Ghost, whose brooding over the waters of chaos brought forth the worlds. So next, Dr. Besant is talking about the Christianity, where these concepts are very well established and well explained, and we are all familiar. So here in this Trinity, the words used are the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Father is the fount of all life is the Father. The dual-natured second logos is the Son, who can also be called as the God-man. And the third is the creative mind, the Holy Ghost. The doctrine of reincarnation is rather taken for granted in the New Testament than distinctly taught. Thus, Jesus, speaking of John the Baptist, declares that he is Elias, which was for to come. The unity of moral teaching is not less striking than the unity of conceptions of the universe and of the experiences of these who rose out of the prison of the body into the freedom of the higher spheres. So it's need not to explain that the concept of reincarnation is also being well established in the Christian philosophies, where the Jesus himself talks about these stories. So therefore, to sum up, among the Hindus, there were selected scholars deemed worthy of special instruction, to whom the Guru imparted the secret teachings, while the general rules of right living may be gathered from Manu's ordinances, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, and many other treatises. So in Hindu text, all these philosophies or the teachings can be found from the Manu's ordinances, the Upanishads, and Mahabharata. If we turn to Buddha, we find him with his arhats, to whom his secret teachings were given while published. So in Buddhism, the teachings can be found where Buddha gives the teachings to his arhats. In Zoroastrian, is taught to praise Ahurmas. So in Zoroastrianism, these teachings are taught in the form of praising to Ahurmas. The Hebrew had his schools of prophets and his Kabbalah, and in the exoteric books, we find the accepted moral teachings. So even in Hebrew, these teachings can be found in the school of the prophets and his Kabbalah. the Christian teacher and his secret instructions for his disciples, and he made them. In Christianity, we can find these teachings as the secret instructions to the disciples of Lord Jesus Christ. The school of Pythagoras and those of the Neoplatonics kept up the tradition for Greece, and we know that Pythagoras gained some of his learnings in India, while Plato studied and was initiated in the schools of Egypt. So even in the Greek mythology, in the Pythagoras and the Platonic schools, we can find the similarities because they studied in various other religions also. So for conclusion, since it is we are running short of time, I would like to conclude that by quoting various evidences that are found in various religions, we can find a common, we can find 2 to 3 different philosophies which are common in every religion. One is the acceptance of one external or eternal existence, which is manifested God. 2, the God gives rise to a Trinity, or which further gives rise to the manifested God gives rise to a duality, which further gives rise to a Trinity, and then from which all other, the entire order is drawn. And third thing is the reincarnation, where man is the representative of this Trinity, and the soul or the spirit, it tends to attain the unity with the God, and then it has to undergo the cycle of reincarnation in order to purify himself. So therefore, these are the 3 concepts that we can find in various texts of all the religions. So in conclusion, all the similarities point to a single source, and that is the Brotherhood of the White Lodge, the hierarchy of adepts who watch over and guide the evolution of humanity, and who have preserved these truths unimpaired from time to time as necessity arose, reasserting them in the ears of men from other worlds, from earlier humanities. They came to help our globe, evolved by a process comparable to that now going on with ourselves, and that will be more intelligible when we have completed our present study than it may now appear. And they have afforded this help, reinforced by the flower of our own humanity from the earliest times until today. Still, they teach eager pupils, showing the path and guiding the disciples' steps. Still, they may be reached by all who seek them, bearing in their hands the sacrificial fuel of love, of devotion, of unselfish longing to know in order to serve. Still, they carry out the ancient discipline, still unveil the ancient mysteries. The 2 pillars of their Lord's gateway are love and wisdom. So therefore, once we understand all the religions, we can come to a conclusion that all these teachings are from a single source and are being guided by a same brotherhood. And time to time, the members of this brotherhood, they come to the world as teachers, and then they teach these basic principles, and the adaptations are according to the time and the place of their teachings. And apart from these differences, apart from all other superstitions or other additions that has happened in the religion, if we understand the basic concept, then we understand that they all come from the same source. And these brotherhood of the White Lodge, so this brotherhood can be called as the Brotherhood of the White Lodge. And even today, they follow their tradition, they follow their ancient methods of teaching, and it is not something that is not existence or obsolete. It is still a functioning brotherhood, and a heavy task lies before us. And beginning on the physical plane, we shall climb slowly upwards. So in order to understand this, the real ancient wisdom as the doctrine of this brotherhood, which is the basis of all religion, if we have to understand in this book various principles, various concepts of this ancient wisdom is being explained, and it is a heavy task that is lying before us, and we need to climb slowly. But a bird's eye view of the great sweep of the evolution and of its purpose may help us. So this is just an introduction. This is just a bird's eye view of various other things. And therefore, there is a heavy task that is lying before us. and we shall slowly climb, slowly understand the basic concept of ancient wisdom, which is the basis of all other religion. And in further classes on in the coming weeks, our brothers and sisters will explain in detail of each and every concept or principle of this ancient wisdom, and hence we can understand all the religions of this world. So thank you so much. We are running out of time. We couldn't deal in detail in the end, and I'm sure we got a bird's eye view of what is coming ahead in various other classes. So thank you so much, Kritika.
Thank you so much, Brother Pradeep. I was initially going to sum it up, but I don't think now I need to sum it up because you have already given the submission. So I think because Shikhar sir has to go, so we should directly read the, I mean, rather we should all
it's
come
okay.
on video.
Yeah, we can have 10 minutes more for if any questions or something, if anybody has. Yeah.
Okay, so I open the forum for any questions or suggestions. And I think Taral sir is not here today. I was just checking.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I would just like to share this in a very short quickly, that, okay, the study here that we are doing is not meant like to be like a spoon feeding kind of thing. It is meant more for inspiring the spirit of study in all of us, so that if by attending these sessions we get inspired and we then do follow it up with our own self-study at home, alone, or in person with ourselves with the book, then it would be really helpful. Because just listening here and then if, I mean, you see, the mind has to be impressed again and again. So that is the main aim for the studies that we are doing. As Brother Pradeep said, in such limited time cannot cover too much of the things. So just that thought.
Exactly. In fact, even I was, since I am a beginner, and even I realized that, okay, we are attending talks, but this book gives us very basic and very fair idea of the context of that whether we are a member of Theosophical Society or not. But we can actually learn the basic ideals of life, our daily life. Also, ancient wisdom is not something new. It is a age-old concept. It is the Brahm Vidya, as Pradeep sir told, that it is theosophy. So I think all the young members should definitely attend all the upcoming sessions and also read the book. I would invite Vasumati ma'am to share her views.
नमस्ते सभी को। और मैंने पाया ये एंशिएंट विजडम जो है वास्तव में ये एक बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स और प्रिंसिपल्स और डेली लाइफ के लिए, जैसा कि आप लोगों ने कहा, और प्रदीप जी ने इंट्रोडक्शन को बहुत अच्छी तरह से कवर किया है और मुझे लगता है उन्होंने कोई भी पॉइंट छोड़ा नहीं है। सभी को बताया है इंट्रोडक्शन में, प्रस्तावना में, कि इस पुस्तक में क्या है और हमें इसका स्टडी क्यों करना चाहिए। तो मैं उनको साधुवाद देती हूँ इतने अच्छे प्रेजेंटेशन के लिए। और आगे जैसा कि अभी बताया गया है, जो चैप्टर्स आएंगे उनमें हम लोग लोकों के बारे में पढ़ेंगे और जितने जो कॉन्सेप्ट सभी रिलीजन्स में समान हैं उनके बारे में भी जानेंगे, क्योंकि वो सिंगल सोर्स से आए हैं, ऐसा प्रदीप सर ने अभी इंट्रोडक्शन में बताया है। तो उनको बहुत बहुत साधुवाद इतना अच्छा पुस्तक उठाने के लिए। और कृतिका जी, आपको भी इतना अच्छा क्या कहना चाहिए, संचालन करने के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई। और आगे आप लोग इसी तरह से पढ़ते रहें, हम लोग को बताते रहें। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you so much, Vasumati ma'am. Any else question or suggestion, or else we'll proceed towards the yeah.
Sorry, I'm pushing everyone due to my meeting, but I'm sorry for that extremely.
No, you don't have to be sorry, because we almost took, we covered the entire
Yeah. And anyway, we are going to study in the chapters one by one in detail, so that will be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we shall proceed towards the end, and